Tech for Africa.
They say oil builds nations and gold shaped empires. But today, a new resource is rewriting the roles of power: data. Every mobile payment, every health record, every click on our phones is part of Africa's digital wealth. Yet, the uncomfortable truth is this: much of that wealth is being extracted, shipped abroad, and monetized by others. So the question before us tonight is simple but profound. Who really owns Africa's data, and can artificial intelligence turn it into prosperity for our people? This is Wivo Legal Tech for Africa, and I am your host, Mohamed Wurie Bah. Together with my distinguished guest, Thandiwe P. Majama, we'll unpack how AI and the data economy could be Africa's ticket to growth, or our next missed opportunity. So stay with us, because this conversation goes beyond technology. It is about sovereignty, justice, and Africa's future in the digital age. Manjawa Thandi, welcome to Wivo Legal Tech for Africa. Dumela.
Thank you so much for having me, Wurie. I like that you have mastered the pronunciation of Dumela.
Okay. I tell people that I'm also, I'm a citizen of of especially the entire Southern Africa. I'm also a citizen of your country. So thank you for accepting to come to the show and to discuss this very important topic that's so vital. Thandi, we can talk about data as the new oil. What does that really mean for Africa? Is it just a hype, or is there really wealth at stake here?
Yeah. Well, I would like to say it's not just hype. There is potential for wealth there, and it's pretty evident when we look at the West and how they've been able to harness data. But I think it's mostly because, if we look at the reason why the West have been able to, I would say, make money or harness the power of data, is because they've had infrastructures in place that allow them to do that, which is quite contrary if you look at the African continent. In comparison, the West have more infrastructures, and that's allowed them to be able to create value out of data, because data does have value. Whether it's the new oil is something else, because oil is a resource and the resource does deplenish at some point, whereas data is like the gift that keeps giving, depending on how you look at it, the various ways that you can manipulate it, the fact that I can use data, you can use data, and your use of it doesn't affect my use of it. It's like the never-ending gold that doesn't run out. It would be the oil that doesn't run out and the gold that doesn't run out.
That's perfect, because that's metaphor. It's one thing my previous guest and lecturer is averse to. She doesn't see data as oil, because it's like she sees it something more than just an oil, because unlike oil, which belongs to everyone, or let's say the community, data here belongs to you, the individual. It belongs to the people. So it has to do with something of fundamental right. Yeah. So right now, most of Africa's digital infrastructure, as you said, unlike us, the West has their infrastructure, and for us, unfortunately, we do not, at the moment, have the requisite infrastructures, and most of the ones that we do have is owned or influenced by foreign tech giants. Do we risk a form of digital colonialism, or we don't assert ownership of our data?
That's a really good point that you bring out, and I'm not sure how your viewers or you would explain digital colonialism, but I do recall that there's a really good paper that by one of the authors, I believe it's Silas Marker and Vincent Hendricks. They talk about digital colonialism on the African continent, and they view it as like the extraction and control of data from citizens of the African continent without their explicit consent, or with their explicit consent through communication and network development. Now, if we look at it, the idea behind digital colonialism is the fact that, like the earlier colonialists, the West came to the continent with the aim of like exploiting our labor, the people, the resources, and then they would extract it and leave with it and make money from it. And I think it's the same thing that we're witnessing today, except it's now digital. So we have Western companies that are building infrastructure or providing infrastructure on our continent for the purposes of exploiting the data on the continent, and they extract and take it back for them for the purposes of like using it either, I mean, for targeted ads, for manipulating it for data analytics and so forth and so on. So we are facing an issue of digital colonization, and very closely to that is something that we should be considering. I think personally at the center of it is the fact that we don't control the infrastructure. Because in my view, if we control the infrastructure, your data centers, your undersea cables, your cell towers, if we control them, we'd be talking about something different. But because foreign entities and private companies are the ones who have the money and the resources to build them, this is where we find ourselves.
So, what is stopping us from having control of our infrastructure, to your mind?
I would posit that most of it is like imperial benefits of the fact that they were first to do it. I think a good example of this is like the undersea cables. Like the West were the first to do undersea cables before we could even fathom that we needed undersea cables to connect the internet. So most of it is the fact that they were able to do it first, and they had the money and the resources to do it first. And now that we are trying to play catch up, the cost of just an undersea cable for one African country would be so expensive that in order for us to even consider such things we'd have to huddle together, like we'd have to collaborate with each other as nations to be able to to build such infrastructures. I could be wrong, but I think part of it is cost. I definitely don't think it's technical ability, because Africans are very educated people, and we're very resourceful. Where we don't have the money, we'll figure out a cheaper way to do it. But I think most of it is just, and also when we think of the law of the seas, like there's also the legal aspect, like where you put the infrastructure is governed by law. If we're talking internet connectivity, we have to use the sea.
Yeah.
Who owns the sea? Like that goes way back to, there's a lot of aspects that need to be considered. That's my view. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in other words, this issue of data extractivism is born out of the fact that we are poor, and that we cannot afford our own infrastructure to protect ourselves. I mean, based on what I gathered from what you've just said. So, the question that comes to one mind now is, where do we start? I mean, you've talked about poverty. So there was a time when I was doing my course. There was a time when I started reflecting, and one of my profound reflections was that this thing that I'm studying, basically, do I have the market to go back home and practice?
Yeah.
Understand?
Yeah.
And if there is because one of the main thing, the common thing that is in the mind of the African is how to elevate him or herself from poverty. So Thandi, where do we start from here?
Oof, that's a hard question. And I also want to reiterate, when I say financial constraints, I don't mean that we're poor, because we are a very resource-rich country, but it's just that other people have beat us to it. And the way the world
but Thandi, with all our resources, I mean, the reality is we are poor people. I mean, you cannot take that away from us.
I refuse.
I used to be an idealist sort of a person with their Pan-African dream and stuff, but now that I'm bit sliding towards the realism school, I'm seeing things differently. And one of the things you must accept is the fact that we are really, really poor people. And anyways,
it's semantics. We can agree on semantics. I refuse to use the word poor, because we are not poor. Financially challenged, yes, but not poor. But I think where to start would be, I think, a good starting point, and I believe I've seen it with what the African Union is trying to do, is bringing African nations together to say the starting point would be to collaborate, one, with regulations that are meant to protect us, right? One of the key ways that I've seen African countries, or even just when you look at Europe, one of the things they do to protect data within their borders is to implement laws around data localization. So what that means is laws that are limiting how much or what kind of data can be transferred to third country nations, how it is transferred to third country nations. Like, it's not just a matter of restricting it, because that on its own, so if you have, my view is, if you have local data localization laws, that in itself would boost the development of infrastructure in the country. Because if Facebook cannot extract the data and transport it to, I don't know, the UK or Ireland or the US, then they'd be forced to build data infrastructure in the country. And that on its own allows us to put further restrictions on what can and cannot be done.
But you see, again, someone would say there's a fundamental problem there, because now you're saying the outside, the foreign tech company, if we do have the laws and regulation, would force them to come and do and get the infrastructure done in our countries. But again, someone would ask, why not have our own companies? Is it that we don't know how to get ours? Is it that we're not capable of having ours?
Yeah, I mean, it could be done either way. Like, it could be an issue of you are limiting the foreign country into building a data center in your country. I mean, it would be like a foreign-owned property, but that on its own, the fact that it's physically present, would give the state or even the country that it's in even more or greater limitations that they can place on what's possible and what is not possible. It could be the way that you've put it, where the local companies are also the ones who are building this infrastructure, or the ones that own the infrastructure. But I mean, the social network is a terrible example, because Facebook has the advantage that it is, or Facebook or your Googles, they generally have the advantage that they are widely used by people. So it would be, even if we build our own infrastructure and we wanted to do, and I'm sure people have attempted to do this with their own search engines, their own social networks, it's just a matter of people are not picking it up as much as the ones that we already know.
Good.
So I guess an aspect of it would be even garnering support within the local members that, hey, our structure works better. It protects you. You don't have to worry about your data leaving the country. You don't have to worry about your privacy, because it is within the borders of the country. but we are a global network, so we have to. I believe like data is valuable inland, but it's also more valuable the fact that it can be transferred beyond the border. It creates greater value to the data. I could be wrong, but yeah.
So one last question on this. I mean, in your view,
Yeah.
who should own Africa's data? Is it the government, or does tech companies, or you and you and me? Who should own? Yes.
Ownership, and I'm sure you have probably come across this, that ownership of data is a very tricky concept.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of legal regimes also don't address ownership of data.
Mm-hmm.
It's always like you hold data as a custodian. I hold data. I hold rights over data, and nobody owns data. Just to clear it up, because of the fact that it's an intangible thing. But I do recall reading a scholar once who had suggested, and I think I fall into that school of thought, who had suggested that there should be things like data trusts, in the sense of where if Wurie, you own a company, a digital infrastructure, you are allowed to exploit the data for a certain number of years, after which you then give over the data that you have, or you give access to the data that you have, and it becomes a public good that a certain researchers, vetted researchers, not everyone should have access to it, but certain people are now responsible for holding it in trust on behalf of the country that you're in, and they research, they use it for whatever vetted purposes that the state has allowed. So in that sense, it's like a hybrid sort of situation. You have the state looking out for the interest of its people, but you also have like these independent researchers who are holding it in trust for the rest of the people.
For other people.
It's a concept, but it's a concept that scholars are exploring, as opposed to saying one person should own the data. Certainly not the government, because we know that governments can use that as a form of surveillance and censoring people. So there needs to be a better way of like, I own it, you own it, the government, everybody who has an interested stake in it should be allowed to use it. That's
an insightful concept. I'll look deep into it. Let's talk about the devil in the room, AI.
Which is
I designed a name for it. I call it the Frankenstein monster because we created it. So this very good monster is being hailed as a game changer. But can Africa realistically use AI to create jobs and industry, or will it mostly replace work?
I think I'm a bit of like, I'm on the border with AI. I can see how it's useful, particularly I would say in my studies, when I was studying, I found it very useful for summarizing things, but I also, as you know, like the AI hallucinates. And in the context of Africa, I think there's great potential for AI in the education sector. And I say in the education sector because provided that models are trained right, when you have a question, when you want to inquire, it's the easiest path to get the information that you need, or at least to point you in the right direction of the information that you need, assuming it's accurate, but we know not when it becomes accurate. So there's potential there. My issue with AI not being the Hail Mary that it is because it comes at a cost. It does. Data centers need water, they need electricity, they need, like the ones that run AI, and these are things that in Africa we struggle with maintaining: clean water, a good supply of energy that's constant. So there is potential, and it could be used for for generating income in Africa for sure. In fact, maybe not even large language models, maybe small language models would be the best to work in Africa. So yes, the elephant in the room is beneficial and could drive Africa forward, but it's not the only thing. I think they still value in mechanical ways of doing things in Africa, particularly.
Thandi, do you see, you mentioned the education sector specifically. Do you see specific sectors apart from the education part, let's say agriculture or health or fintech, where, I mean, AI could make our continent globally competitive?
Oof. I'm going to lean towards the agriculture sector because
perfect.
I think farming and these are things, at least in Botswana, it's a very common thing. And if we digitized it, or like if we used AI as a form of way of gathering data, I think that would be, we would go so much further. Who knows if it could predict to us based on the data that we have, that okay, in the past years we've always had this type of rains on this year, but given that the climate is changing, the winds are like this, maybe in the coming season this is what you should be doing. I think there's potential there, or even just in our traditional practices or how we can improve them. I think there's potential for AI in terms of farming or in agriculture, in the agricultural sector, more than anything, because that's where we thrive as Africans. Health, I'm not sure. I don't know. I cannot speak on it.
Okay.
I would be interested also in your perspective. Which sector do you feel?
I mean, because AI it has enormous potential. It's a knowledge based tool.
Yeah.
And it can thrive, for me, it can thrive in all of these sectors. I just wanted, coming from a research point of view, I'd wanted, to see some form of specificity or details. But yes, I mean, in my view, obviously, we can, of course, utilize AI to, foster and enhance our health infrastructure, like you said, on the agricultural sector and fintech, importantly, of course, we can use AI. I want us to take the conversation now to regulations, policy and regulation. But before we start talking on that end, viewers, if you have any question for our guests today, please drop that in the comment section. We'll come to you live from Facebook and from YouTube. And of course, we'll go back to the comment section and look at your own views, which are also legitimate, to add to the conversation this evening. So, Thandi, we've seen data protection laws, imagine in several African countries, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, your country, Botswana, and many other places. Are these laws strong enough to protect sovereignty, or are they just on paper?
Well, I laugh at everything because honestly, all of these, a lot of this area, especially with Africa within the continent, is really emerging in comparison to the EU, I would say, for instance. I don't think it's all on paper. I think the laws do serve a purpose, and especially when we look at the data protection laws, I think for a lot of the African countries that are now drafting them have made them stronger, and they've considered beyond just, okay, how do we protect data? I think a lot of, I'm not sure about Botswana, but I do know some of them do have data localization aspects to them to limit the transfer of data from their country to another country. So that on its own is a good thing that, only in Botswana, we only transfer data to the countries that we feel have similar protections because we mirror the EU GDPR. So in a way,
So you're telling me you don't transfer your data to us because We don't have a data protection law.
We probably don't, because our
I
laws
see.
say only in the countries that have similar protections. So we've followed the EU way of doing it. And I do believe in POPIA as well. The South African
Yeah.
Act has similar provisions. So in that way, there is a form of protecting the sovereignty of the people. However, like I'm saying, all this is useless if we do not own the data infrastructure. It's completely useless. If we're still using, I don't know, Meta's infrastructure, if we're still using, I don't know, Google's infrastructure, then by all means, they can surveil our data. By all means, they can manipulate the data. And more importantly, they can decide what qualifies as data. So the laws are great, but they can only go so far, especially data protection. We need more laws around AI. We need more laws around data itself, like defining ownership, defining. So data protection on its own is not enough. I do think we do need to augment these laws, either through policies, and we do need to work together as the continent, even if it's regionally, because that's the best way, I think, to do it. Start with the regions and then go more continent-wide.
One very important thing based on what you're saying is, balancing the right of the people and then also fostering innovation and investment. So how do we balance regulation that protects citizens without choking innovation and scaring off investors?
Oof. I don't have an answer for that.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry if my questions are taking you off the balance. I'm so sorry. Anyways, carry on.
No, it's a good question, because I don't have the answer for that. And because I studied a bit of EU law, I noticed that the EU people also don't have an answer for that, because this is the struggle they have.
Yeah.
They're trying to foster innovation, but also protect their sovereignty at the same time. And this is where we see the number of growing regulations every day, because they're trying to foster innovation, but also protect their sovereignty. And I think it's the same thing we will face in Africa. It could be one way, would definitely be to encourage more of our own ingrown innovations. So if we invest more in our own ingrown innovations, our own infrastructures, it would put us at the same level as big tech giants. It would allow us to maybe even negotiate better terms, because at this point, some of these big tech giants are bullying us, because it's like, oh yeah, if your laws go like this, we'll just pull out of your country, and your people use. So it's a hard balance, but maybe the best way to do it is to invest in local innovations and encourage local innovations.
So I don't know if you have an answer to this, but I'm being deliberate in asking you this one. When there is conflict between the two, which one, in your own estimation, would take precedence? Is it protecting the right of the people, or is it fostering innovation? When both comes to conflict,
I would protect the right of the people.
Perfect. No, but I was expecting that answer because you are European trained. Most of the lawyers who studied tech law in the US would have answered differently. But never mind. I'm just teasing you.
No, but like, if we consider it for a second, that not all innovation is good.
Okay.
Not all. I think we've for some reason made innovation synonymous with good, but that's not necessarily always the truth. That just because it's innovative doesn't mean it's a good thing. Like, it's a good innovation. You can have bad innovations. Like,
I'm in total agreement with you. Yeah. So let's fast forward the conversation now because we're running out of time today. I just wanted to use 45 minutes of our viewers' time. I want us to talk about, since we're talking about innovation, let's talk about local innovation, which you raised, and try to see how best we can bring the youth in. Do you know of African innovators already leveraging data and AI to solve problems on the ground, first of all?
Data and AI problems. I probably do, but I can't think of anyone off the top of my head.
Okay, no problem. No worries. No worries. I mean, no problem. But anyways, how can Africa's young population position themselves? I mean, not just as consumers of AI, but as creators of it.
Well, I would say, thankfully, hopefully the internet is accessible to anyone. One of the best ways to do it, honestly, is research, and especially when it comes to AI, because AI is a very research-based tool that needs data in order to perform. So I would say the best way to do it, especially with the best place to foster this, is education institutions, because they have, I would say, the electricity, the internet, the resources already kind of there for people to exploit. And beyond education institutions, God, I don't know how, but then Africans are really good at innovating even where in the face of difficulty, like where there's lack. That's where we innovate the most.
Have you seen the movie The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind? It's about a Ugandan.
Yeah.
I think it's Malawi or Uganda. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that I watched that movie quite recently. Someone drew my mind to it, and I was like, And I think the movie was about something that happened. Actually, it's about a real life story. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at a great example would be mobile money, the fintech, how the mobile money works in African continent, how we went from, so we don't have internet, but we can send each other money cross-border via the phone, mobile money. We have Orange. I think in Kenya they have
Pesa. We have Orange.
Yeah, so
we have in our country we also have what we call AfriMoney. I mean, basically all the mobile networks do have mobile money. Yeah.
Exactly.
And now they've integrated bank accounts into them. If you're in Europe and you want to send money to someone, you can just send it directly to their mobile number with no internet connection.
Yeah. Like, honestly, for me, it's like I didn't know that in other continents this was not a thing until I interacted with people. I'm like, you guys don't, and I realized no, it's because they have internet everywhere. So Africans had to create a product that would work within Africa.
I agree.
So young people are definitely the best people to innovate, but they do need access to resources because of the type of innovations that we need for the future. Your AIs, they do need some form of infrastructure already there. Availability of the internet, availability of expertise, availability of data. So even just research-wise, if we started to collect more data and put it in a way that we can use it, that would be the best way to exploit new technology.
Perfect. Now let's go to the big debate. Revenue collection. The revenue collection. I mean, there's this big debate during my studies whether, since we do not have the infrastructure at the moment, whether our government in Africa should tax foreign tech companies for using our data. I mean, that trade model, or should we focus more on partnership?
No. I'm not a fan of the partnership model. Is this because I recall studying also in my studies something about the OECD model, how they do digital taxation. I'm absolutely for that model of doing digital taxation, that where the resource is mined or where the money is the thing that allows for the money to be made is where it should be taxed.
I agree.
That it makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, but to worry there again, I'm just trying to be critical. The worry there is once we've acquired that tax money, it doesn't reflect the people whose data has been used as a commodity to get that tax money. I don't know.
I mean, that will bring us to the debate of ownership now, because then it would mean the laws would have to bestow on every single person the right to own your data, and that's already a problem. Like, nobody wants to say, Wurie, you have the right to own your data, you know? So, but if we put it in the way, you know how people nationalize mines and say, whatever money is made from the resources of this mine will be distributed for the benefit of the people. So it will go into the developments of the country. It will reflect in not necessarily Wurie getting paid, but maybe we take the money and invest it in healthcare. But you would see that, okay, the money that was used from the taxing all these big tech giants is being invested in our healthcare. Our healthcare is improving. I don't know, our agricultural sector is improving. We no longer need to pay income tax because we make so much money from the taxation from like outside companies that the people don't even need to pay high income tax anymore. I don't know. That's my view. But I'm definitely for taxation in that type of model. Redistribution wise, I don't think it's possible to give each and every single person the money they made from their data. That requires a whole structure for knowing who used it, how much of it used it, how much is the worth of your data. Is the health data more important than your, I don't know, data in relation to how you browse the internet? It's complicated. But if we just take the whole pot and give it to the government and say, okay, the government decides where to invest it and what to use it for the benefit of the people, not for lining the people's pockets.
I have seen people that are so scared of the usage of their data in the course of my studies, that they are not their digital presence is zero. They are not on Facebook. I have a friend who, of course, I was with in Madrid for this Claire competition, which we connected. She was so scared, even when we are taking pictures, even when it was a group picture, she would warn that even if we have to post that picture, we must ensure that we crop her face out. And so that's why most of the time she's on the corner angle of all the photos we took. So should we be scared of our data? I mean, now that we've established the infrastructure is not there, and and of course, even though you are tempted to give some credence to the regulations we do have in the various African countries, that they protect the usage of the citizenry data, but a vast majority of other African countries like mine doesn't have a data protection regime. So should we be scared of using the internet at the moment? Because, I mean, there is no protection. Absolutely.
Yeah. Scared is a strong word. Cautious in how you use it, definitely. Definitely being cautious about how you use the internet, especially when you don't have laws that protect your privacy, is important. But more than the laws that are protecting people's privacy is the laws that are protecting the national security of the country based on, because beyond the individual, what's more worrying is the national security of the country. If you don't have laws or you don't have practices that are ensuring that the data of the state itself, of critical infrastructure, like your telecommunications, your health, like all of that, is not safeguarded, that is the bigger worry of how that can be used to manipulate citizens of your country, or how that can be used to against the citizens of your country. So definitely using it with caution where there is no laws is something that people need to be cognizant of. It would be good if we could all stay off the internet, but the internet has also brought us so many benefits. So completely staying off the internet would be hard.
Can we live without the internet?
We've lived without the internet before, for sure. We can live without it.
At this moment, at this point of time, so you think we can live without the internet?
I definitely think we can live without it. I don't know about you, but we have villages in Botswana. When you go to the village, there's no internet connection.
Of course,
and you don't die.
I mean that is everywhere in Africa. We also have the same. You know, we have people that are not connected at all to the internet, but they are surviving, they are living, they are breathing, they are well and alive.
And like
yeah.
So,
Thandi, it's been a great company. Unfortunately, I don't think we have any comment from Facebook. People are viewing, but no one has commented. Neither YouTube. I'll just give viewers some time, perhaps 2 minutes. If you have a comment, you can put it now for Thandi before we go. But meanwhile, whilst we're waiting to see if people can send in their comments, what would be your parting words? Let me ask you this before you give us your parting words. Do you think AI can make us rich as Africans?
I think it has the potential to, honestly, yes. I absolutely think so. The same way our national resources have made other people rich, AI can also make us rich with our own data, for sure.
I mean, let me just give an example to viewers. Before I left for my studies, for my master's studies, I have I have a bit of a fair knowledge about coding or something like that. So, but when I get to the UK, I perfected my skill, and one of my greatest teacher was AI. Whenever I got stuck, I would go to especially ChatGPT. So what happened? What happened was this: there was this workshop where they invited people to come use AI to test its potentials and abilities. So I signed up for it, and then the university paid for everyone that participated to have the pro model. But before that, I didn't have the pro model. So that pro model that we had codes. So I started learning. It was great. So I through that model, through that workshop, I started learning how to build websites. I started learning how to build web apps and applications. Now I'm making a living out of it. I'm telling you.
And you did not need to be in a classroom, and you did not need to pay
no money. Absolutely. I use ChatGPT, and as well I look at YouTube and get some videos that are relevant to. So yes, there is a tremendous potential for us to become rich with AI, and it's in our doors if only we can utilize it well.
It's true. And to add on to that, I think there's even greater potential for us beyond knowing how to use ChatGPT to be able to build our own versions of this. That's where the goal is.
There are people there. I mean, one of my episode 2 guest built an AI in Nigeria. It's called Rafiki AI. It's Ahmed Coyote. Coyote. So I mean, there are imagined people coming up, we just wish we'll get there one day. So in the absence of comments and questions from our viewers, Thandi, what would be your parting words? Let me leave you to go to a beautiful Friday night. I know.
I think my parting words would be to be curious about artificial intelligence and how it works. Beyond asking it, draw me a picture, draw me this. Really be curious about how do large language models work and
Good.
how can I build my own? So I think, or small language models work and how can I build my own? So yeah, that's my parting words.
Thank you very much, Thandi. Thank you so much
Thank you for
for
having me.
I mean, all thanks to you, and of course, most
Thanks.
importantly, thanks to our viewers who have tuned in to watch the show today. We've been in the fine company of Thandiwe P. What's the P stand for? It's
a Setswana name, Pilonomi.
Pilonome.
Yes.
Majama. Thank you so much. Until again, I've been your host, Mohamed Wurie Bah. Until next week, we're signing out. Bye-bye.
Oh, bye.
Hi.